This is really quite ugly.
It is, and I think what's striking about it is that this is far from the first ugly quarter that we've seen out of Boeing. I mean, it's now been 3 years since the second 737 MAX crash, and obviously the effects of the pandemic were significant on Boeing, but we're still just getting these self-inflicted wounds, if you want to call it that. I mean, you know, about $1 billion in charges announced today in the defense side of the business, having to do with some of these fixed cost programs. Their strategy there a few years ago was to bid low on the expectation that their commercial aerospace program would give them more cover to be competitive, and obviously it has not played out as expected. But the fact that we're still getting these kinds of updates, I think, is just very difficult for investors to wrap your mind around. What is the strategy? Where is the exit ramp? How do we get back to a point where Boeing is, you know, an investable stock again?
DC Dave Calhoun joined 2020. It's not been good since then, Brooke. How long has he got?
Yes, I mean, with Calhoun, I think obviously it has not been a success. I think it would be a stretch to call it that. I mean, I have a hard time pointing all of the blame toward him, just because I think he obviously inherited a very difficult situation. I mean, a lot of what we're talking about are sort of consequences from bad decisions that Boeing made a very long time ago. And, you know, the thing with aerospace programs is that these consequences take a while to catch up with the companies that are involved. And I think, you know, what's difficult is I don't know if anybody could have navigated Boeing through these troubled waters over the past couple of years, but I just think it's very difficult to look at these continued delays on their aerospace programs, some of which are out of their control, some of which are not, and to see, you know, again, where do we get back to a point where Boeing is consistently generating strong cash flow?
So how are Calhoun and the other executives defending themselves on the call? You were listening to it. What are some of the key takeaways from that?
You know, they're still positive on being cash flow positive this year. I mean, I think that's difficult to see how you get there. You do have to hope that maybe some of these 737 MAX deliveries might start picking up again. Right now, that is complicated by the fact that they're not delivering them to China. There was, of course, that crash on an older 737 model, which sort of complicated the picture there for Boeing. And then also, perhaps more significantly, you have the lockdowns in China that are limiting demand for air travel. So if you're an airline in China right now, why do you want more airplanes? And so, you know, again, a lot of this is out of their control, but that's not a great sales pitch right now. And look, certainly they're not the only company dealing with inflation, the effects of the war in Ukraine, supply chain constraints. We heard yesterday from GE, 3M, Raytheon. They are all dealing with these issues too. I think what's different in the case of Boeing is that it has so many idiosyncratic problems. So if you're looking for a place right now to invest, to bet on the industrial economy, it's tough. And aerospace, ironically, should be one of the bright spots. I mean, we've heard from all the airlines that business travel is starting to come back. International demand is picking up. People are getting back out there. Airlines want to buy new planes, but Boeing just can't get out of its own way.
They make the F-15, the F-18, they make the Osprey, they make the Apache, they make the Chinook. Brooke, there's a big war happening. How is a company with a major defense footprint not in a better position right now?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is that, you know, we did see this big rally in defense stocks on the war in Ukraine, but it does take some time for those dollars, that spending that we've been talking about coming out of greater defense budgets in Europe, to hit those companies' income statements. So that is a later story, probably more like 2023, 2024, where we really start to see the impact of that spending for these companies. And in the case of Boeing, I just come back to, you know, they underbid on some of these programs to be competitive, to make sure that they won them, and then now they're paying the cost for that, because these are fixed cost programs. When you have inflation, when you have supply chain constraints, that makes that calculus tougher.